Now, let's take a look at this. Firstly, the decision by Obama to take such a decision on his own, it might seem. What do you think prompted it all?
It was one of his election promises that he would close down Guantanamo, where they were keeping prisoners from the, extremist Islamist people in Cuba, on a base in Cuba. And one of his promises was he'd close them down. Now, there are still about 150 people there. And even though a number have been released, he hasn't been able to carry out his promise. So this was one perhaps small way of moving in that direction.
But the Americans are surely not happy. Those opposed to the move have claimed that it will compromise American servicemen abroad and the country's long-standing position that it will not negotiate with terrorist organizations. Do you agree with that statement?
It's very difficult to say yes or no to a question like that. The American people want their troops out of foreign adventures, in this case Afghanistan. They want them out of there. And Obama has said that they will be out by the end of next year, I think it is, with 10,000 remaining behind as trainers for the Afghan army. So this is one way of moving that forward. But at the same time, it's difficult. It's not just an easy answer to your question, I'm afraid.
And the claims that Obama broke the law by going ahead with the decision, if it did, how will that affect the Democrats in the upcoming elections and of course, his position?
Yeah, that's a very critical issue for the Democrats because the prospects of their losing control of the U.S. Senate are very great. And if the public object to what's been done, then it could affect their prospects. Obama doesn't control the lower house anyway, so that won't make much difference there.
There are some reports that says he might be impeached. Is that possible?
Well, I suppose anything's possible in a democracy, but it sounds a bit taking it a bit far. On one hand, they wanted to get back this one prisoner. They wanted to get out of Afghanistan. They wanted to get rid of Guantanamo, but now they want to impeach him when he takes a move that will make that more possible.
Now, the United States is going to polls later this year. Will this compromise the Democrats ahead of the elections in terms of poll ratings and so forth?
There's been such gridlock in the United States Congress for so long. They haven't been able to publish, to pass budgets at one stage. The whole federal government was closed down last year because there was no money. So it's difficult to say who's to blame here, that there's an unwillingness in Congress to work with the president. And I think it's perhaps one of the reasons why he bypassed them in this case, just to get the thing going. But what will affect them, it may affect them one way or the other. It's difficult to predict.
Now, on the issue of Iraq, the decision to redeploy U.S. troops in Iraq, has Obama miscalculated the situation as it stands?
That's another very difficult one. I think the deployment is mainly to protect the U.S. embassy and its staff in Baghdad. It isn't feet on the ground fighting against the ISIS terrorists. So it's a limited deployment. And the interesting thing is there that he's working with the Iranians to try and find a solution. I mean, this is news-breaking, groundbreaking stuff. It hasn't happened for decades.
And why is that?
I suppose it's the only way. The government of Iraq is headed by a Prime Minister Maliki, who is an extreme Shia religious supporter, the Sunni Islam in the north, Shia in the south. And he's been very authoritarian, and he's almost driven out all the Sunni and Kurdish officers out of the army. So he's extremely unpopular in the north of the country, which made it very easy for ISIS to come in there and get local support for their drive on Baghdad.
The U.S. troop removal from Iraq, was that perhaps too early? Was that miscalculated in your view?
Again, the people of the United States don't want their troops in foreign wars at the moment. They don't want losses of their young men and women and so on. So I think in that sense it was probably not miscalculated, but the unfortunate thing has been the way that the elections have elected this extreme Shia, inflexible prime minister who is causing the whole place to break up.
Mr. Wheeler, thank you so much for your time, and once again some overview of what's happening in the world, especially in America currently with Obama. That was Tom Wheeler giving us more insight in the developments and reactions on Obama's decision, which have 5 Taliban prisoners in Guantanamo Bay freed in exchange for one Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl, who is the sole US prisoner of war in Afghanistan.